Welcome, Dawn, to the podcast.
Hi.
It's an honour to have you. I cannot wait for you to
you.
share your story and to get into it. So are you ready for the 10 fire questions to begin?
Absolutely.
Right, let me get them off the view of your beautiful face. So there we go. Right then. Number one, which kind of is 3 in 1, to be fair. Name, age, and profession.
My name is Dawn. I am 50 years old and I am a community development worker.
Lovely. Number 2, sweet or savoury?
I would have sort of like 6-7 months ago, I probably would have said definitely sweet. Now I'm not too sure. I think I do go towards sweeter food, but not necessarily sugary food.
Very interesting. And I can't wait to get into your story about sugar. Number 3, are you an early bird or a night owl?
An early bird.
4, weights or cardio?
Probably cardio. I do like a bit of a kettlebell workout now and again, but cardio and yoga.
I love your dancing videos that you put up. That's cardio.
I love a dance, yes.
Love it. Okay, number 5, 3 things that you love.
3 things that I've got to say myself.
Yeah.
Obviously. I love being outdoors and I love my family.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love that you said yourself first, and just so everyone knows, I did not influence her in any way, shape or form for her to say that. All right, so number 6, have you got a favorite quote or mantra?
I do always say, and my friends and my family and everyone will probably tell you that I do say this a lot, is that everything happens for a reason. I do say that a lot, and at the time we might not know what that reason is, and it might be just as simple as it just makes us a better person knowing it or whatever, but yeah, everything happens for a reason.
Love that. Live by that, definitely. Number 7, okay, I'm interested in your answer to this one. Something that you like that others may consider a bit weird or a bit strange. A bit of a weird question also.
I like Pringles in egg mayonnaise sandwiches.
Can see that. I think I can see that. You know what I'm scared of with Pringles is I think previously they've cut my mouth, when you've bit it in the wrong angle. And then I'm always cautious. You have to put it all in at this one time, right? And then that's the best way, I think.
I have a little thing with Pringles, is my husband's hands are too big to get to the bottom of the tub. So I tend to try and eat all of the Pringles first. And then
just to help him out.
I've got to eat the rest because he can't fit his hand in the tube.
That is a very good tactic.
Absolutely.
You could get them out for him, but nah. Talking about food here. Good point. All right, number 8, 3 things you love about yourself.
3 things I love about myself. I love that I am adventurous, that I am caring and kind, and that I have a really good sense of humour.
Oh, you absolutely do. One of the things I love about you and everyone listening, she's in my group, obviously, she's hilarious. She's actually hilarious, and some of the things you come out with is brilliant. I agree with everything you've said.
I can't believe some of the things I come out with sometimes. I literally go, oh my God, I can't believe I said that.
Yeah, but the best thing is you actually say it.
I know.
You have no filter like me.
That's why I don't drink very much as well, because literally I have no filter when I've not had a drink. So
get you in trouble.
What it's like when I do.
Brilliant. All right, number 9, if you could be a mythical creature or an animal, what would you be and why?
I would probably be an otter, because I love being by the water, obviously, you know that water's my vibe. And they're just like so playful. They're like, when you see them, they're just like really playful, but they're fiercely sort of like, the fierce when it comes to sort of like their young and their family and stuff. So yeah, I'd be an otter.
I love that. And you know what I'm going to share with you after this? I've got a pack of cards, like I've got a few packs of cards, but one of them is like an animal pack, and there's an otter in there, and the otter symbolizes something, but I can't think what it is. So I'll send it you so we can see what it symbolizes.
Well, when I first got my Sacred Forest cards, and I opened them up for the first time, and I picked my very first card, it was like the water spirit, and there was a picture of an otter on it. So yeah, it's on my bucket list to see an otter in its natural habitat, because I've never seen one.
Where are they? Like where?
In rivers and things like that. So
in the UK?
So, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've not seen one, but I'm desperate to see one. Just
put it out there, manifest one.
Yeah. It is on my vision board.
Yeah. That's awesome. I didn't know they were in the UK. I didn't really think much about them, to be honest, but every day's a school day.
You get sea otters as well. So you get them in the oceans and stuff like that.
Oh, every day's a school day, Dawn.
Absolutely.
Right, and the last question, fast forward into the very distant future, when you've lived a beautiful life and you're on your deathbed and you're happy to pass into the other realm. You're looking back on your life. What are you most proud of? It could have happened already, and it could be something in the future that you're looking back on.
What am I most proud of? I'm probably really proud that my children have turned out to be good people. Yeah.
I can imagine, like, not being a mom, I can imagine that's a big deal. Yeah. Oh, gorgeous. All right, Dawn. So let's go into your story and why we're having this conversation that we're having today. I know it's been a while now. How long ago was it when you joined the Body Love Binge?
I started listening to the podcast in September. I know it was September because I started a new job, and it was very much like, no one knows me here, no one knows what I normally eat, no one knows anything about me, and it's a great time to sort of like dive in and start making some changes. So I started listening to the podcast in September, but I didn't join the group until around about November time, I think it was.
So you needed 2 months to warm up to me.
Yeah.
No,
I think it was November. I think it was the November. I'm sure it was November, because I remember messaging you asking about joining after Christmas to get Christmas out of the way. And then I started doing sort of like the free taster modules that are on the website, and I got to a point where it was like I started writing down about sort of like my story and that sort of stuff, and it was like there's too much coming up for me here. I don't think I can work through this on my own. So that's when I sort of like reached out, because it was just, as I said, I was just like, I don't think I can work through this by myself. It seems like it's too much for me.
Yeah, I remember.
But it was sort of like one of those things where I didn't feel I could invest in myself. It seemed like a big investment to invest in me. And it was only after having a conversation with my son, and we were talking about sort of like private sort of like diagnosis for ADHD and things like that. And I was like, well, you know, if you need the money, come to us, and you know what, we'll pay for it, or we'll lend you the money and stuff like that. And it was that triggered like, well, I'm more than willing to find that money if my kids come to me, but why am I not willing to invest in myself?
Wow.
So that was a bit of an eye-opener for me, and I was like, well, you know, I've got that money there. It's there. I was willing to give it to my children to help them. So I'm going to help myself, because they don't actually need it. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's a really profound moment to have. Like, before you realize that, when you just shared like the blockages around, it's the investment is the surface level, but underneath it all, I believe it's you feeling worthy enough to put that money forward to help yourself. How did you come to the realization that you were perhaps not putting your worth first? Was it simply the realization you had that you would give it so willingly to your children, or does anything else pop
No,
into
it
your mind?
literally was that. It was, I think when it comes to spending money on myself, and obviously my husband, when we come to spend money on ourselves, it's very much we don't need it. We'd rather spend it on the kids. But then like the kids don't need it now. They're grown up. They've got their own lives. They've got their own money. And it was, we are worthy of spending it on us. We deserve it. It's our money.
Yes.
But you always sort of like make those excuses. We can't really afford that. We can't really afford that. But the reality is that we could. We could afford that.
And I'm so glad you did, and I'm sure you are as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's changed my life.
What were you struggling with? So it may be difficult for you to go back into that place, but if you can, share with the listeners when you first reached out to me, or maybe even before you started the podcast, what were you struggling with around food and your body in particular?
I didn't necessarily think I had body image issues when I first started. It was definitely around the food. And I felt that if I could stop binge eating, I would naturally lose weight. It was very much that. I started listening to the podcasts as a way to lose weight, but it was for me, it's always been more of a health thing than a way that my body looks. I think the health aspect of it has always been before how my body looks. So always that need to lose weight was always around, I don't want to come across as being lazy. I don't want to have health problems. I want to do my very best for my body. But I wasn't doing my best for my body because I was just restricting food, and it was just bouncing back all of the time. And it just got worse and worse as it went on. Like I've heard you say, is like you couldn't stick to a diet for more than like an hour or a day, and I was exactly the same. It was like it was ridiculous, and I was at a point where I was I was hiding food wrappers. I had my hands in the bottom of the bin hiding wrappers and things like that, and eating in secret, lots of eating in the car, and it was always sugary food, because that's what I restricted the most. Because we've talked about it before, because I genuinely thought I was addicted to sugar.
Yeah, and I did too. I went through like a 12-step rehabilitation program to get off sugar at one point. Of course, it didn't work long term because I wasn't addicted to sugar. We can't be addicted to something we need in order to survive, but it felt like an obsession.
But it did for me. It was like, because a few times a year I would go and not eat sugar for a month. I would go on literally a sugar-free thing, and then it felt like during that time it was easy for me to do that. But once I stopped doing it, it just bounced back. I wasn't able to control it. So I had in my head, I'm better off not eating sugar because I can't control it when I do eat it.
Yeah. Would you say that it was because you'd been, and I understand how you feel, because when we're following something with set rules, like do this, don't do that, it almost takes any thinking or effort out of it, and you just simply, quote, follow the plan. So therefore, not having sugar at all was, obviously, it sounds simple, but it's very difficult in real life to do because of the world we live in and because of the foods we enjoy. Would you say you found it, well, you can explain your experience, whether it was easy or not, but it was helpful that it was completely because of the all or nothing thinking. It was like not sugar at all. So therefore I don't have to think about any of it. It's just like literally all or nothing.
Yeah, definitely. Because I would literally say that to people, I'm better off not having it. If I don't have it, I don't want it. It's when I start to have it that I can't control it. It was very much that all or nothing.
Yeah. What are some of have you done any funny, well, I say funny, it's not funny at the time, and it's not funny that these diets exist, but in order to bring humor into what you used to do, because you're so far from that now, what was like the most ridiculous restriction like you ever have done to yourself?
I don't think of I've done anything massively ridiculous. I mean, I've never done things like the cabbage soup diet and all of that sort of stuff.
Thank God you've been spared.
I did do, I think my first ever diet, so to speak, was a thing called the hair diet. And it was where you could only eat proteins with veg or carbs with veg, or it was that food combining thing. And I remember doing that, and it wasn't even to lose weight. It was more of it was marketed at you as the healthy way to live, the healthy way to eat, the way we should be eating. So that's why I did it. And I think from that point, I probably tried a few, but it was mainly sort of like Weight Watchers, Slimming World, Weight Watchers, Slimming World, MyFitnessPal, calorie counting, NutriCheck, calorie counting, that sort of stuff. I did a really big detox for about a week once, where like the first day you could only sort of like have liquids and stuff. And then you sort of like started to introduce other little bits and pieces. So then you had like smoothies and fruit and vegetables, and then you brought in poultry and red meat and that sort of stuff. So you worked your way back into that. So that was a bit extreme. But again, I didn't do that to lose weight. I did that because of the way it was marketed as being a healthy thing to do.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was great because like my skin was glowing. I was sleeping really well, but that was probably because I was drinking chamomile tea all day, every day.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised I didn't sleep 24/7.
Totally chilled out.
Yeah. So yeah, I did that. A few years ago, I did a thing where it said that if you ate pineapple, this is pretty strange.
Let's hear it. Let's see if I've heard it before.
If you ate pineapple after every meal, it helped like something to do with your enzymes and burning fat or something.
It's similar to what grapefruit tells you to do, I think.
But I think it wrecked my teeth. I don't know if it was a coincidence or it actually did, like, wasn't great for my teeth. But after doing that for about a week, I ended up, I haven't got the dentist because I like it messed with my teeth. I ended up having like a root canal filling.
Wow.
And as I said, I don't know if it was a coincidence or what, but
there's no such thing as coincidence in my belief. It's your body being like, listen, what you're doing is not in alignment with me, so therefore I'm going to create a physical problem, so then you pay attention.
Yeah.
Would you say that the more like restriction you went on, the worse the binge and emotional eating became?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
It was, I always bounce back into binge, because that's what I was restricting. I was restricting the foods that I was binging on, like, because it was very much, I thought I was addicted to those foods. So that's why I tried to stop it. If I can stop it for a month, that's the healthy habit. You know, it takes 21, 28 days or whatever to create this habit. So if I can do that for a month, then I can just control it when I come back to it. But no, it didn't work like that at all.
Like that.
No.
As we know, however, many of us have to try. I tried for 20 years and then I came to my breaking point. You know, some people do it for 40 years and then come to a breaking point. So I understand when people want to keep trying. I honestly get it, because of course, with the culture we live in, what we make weight loss mean and all of that stuff, it's so praised and we feel great about ourselves, but that's all surface level stuff. It can be hard to come to a point where you're like, which is what the point you came to, where you were like, do you know what, this isn't working for me anymore. So can you describe, if you don't mind sharing, like how you felt when you reached out to me and like why you reached out to me at that moment? I know you mentioned the journaling came up as a blockage for you.
Yeah, I think I mean, before I found your podcast, I tried a couple of other podcasts around binge eating, but they didn't sort of like resonate with me at all. And then yours came up and it just like clicked straight away. It was if it was like it was meant to be, I suppose.
It is.
Yeah, it was just like it was meant to be. So yeah, there was the journaling stuff was a real block for me, and I knew that I couldn't work through that by myself, which is, like I said, why I reached out to you, because I was just feeling like I can't do this on my own. But I think there probably was a little bit of that mentality still in there, where it was, I needed someone to guide me. I need something to guide me, like,
Yeah.
as if it was still following a plan, as if it was still someone telling me how to behave and what to do. So yeah, I think there was some of that, but it wasn't very long into sort of like the coaching and stuff that it became more than food for me.
Yeah.
Like
Talk
food.
to us about that, because it's interesting when people say, and I say this, it's not about the food is a symptom. That used to piss me off when I heard that, because I'd be like sat there after I binge my face off being like, it's obviously about the fucking food, because look around. But it's not, is it? How would you describe like what comes up when you give up dieting?
There was a lot of obsession about other things, and I think some of that still sort of like creeps in. All of that obsession with tracking calories and that sort of stuff, all of that mental stuff in your head that goes into making sure you're eating the right food, weighing it, tracking it, all of that needs to go somewhere else. And for me,
Yes.
it was in, I think it sort of like went back to exercise a little bit. It was like, right, I've got a plan now for exercise. I can do that, and that. That became a bit of an obsession. But also, I became sort of like very consumed with listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks,
Yes.
listening, like reading the stuff that you had. That became like my new obsession.
Been there. Like it's like you become obsessed with personal development to the point where if you're not listening to something, you need to be every second of the day learning something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think I'm very much things do tend to consume me a little bit. I think I am that person who's like, it is all or nothing for me. So like when I'm in my craft room, if I go, right, I need to use those scraps, I'll literally go, I need to get rid of this amount of scraps or whatever, scrap papers. And that becomes an obsession. Like even like stuff, this is really silly, but stuff recorded on like your box on the TV, what you've recorded on the TV, and like it's like, right, I need to watch X amount of stuff so that gets below a certain percentage.
Yes. I so feel you. I have this thing, like, just want to share, because as Dawn's so wisely saying, it doesn't go away straight away. It shifts from food and body to something else. And even now, although I'm working around this with myself, my inbox, I have to have, well, I don't have to, but I feel safe having only one page of inbox that doesn't go from one. I've got to basically have only, I think it's like maximum 40 emails in my inbox. Otherwise, I'm like, I'm not happy that it's on 2 pages.
Yeah.
It's got to be one.
Absolutely relate to that. Like when people like post on Facebook, oh my God, I've come to work, I've got 2,000 emails. I'm freaking out for them. I'm like, how are you coping with that?
Yeah, like, so would you say, like, and I want to go into your journey in depth obviously in a moment with specifically food and body, but would you say being so self-aware and noticing that obsession has kind of left that and then attached to something else, would you say you've started to really get to the root of that, and has it started to fade away or get softer even with other aspects of your life?
Yeah, I think so. I think sort of like the coaching with you like really helped, because you sort of like knew me before I knew me, I suppose. So yeah, it was all of the journaling that I did, and finding things like meditation and gratitude and things like that helped me to just step back a little bit from that and step into the uncomfortable. More than anything, it was it just being with myself, because I remember starting with you and not even knowing what I was feeling. And that was a really scary thing, to like sit there and you going to me, well, how are you feeling? And I was like, I don't know. Like I literally knew happy and sad, Do you
Yes.
know what I mean? And it was like, and I still use that wheel that you gave me. I still use it from time to time. I don't need to use it anywhere near as often what I did. But yeah, that was a really big eye opener for me to actually sit there and go, I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know how to feel it.
Yes. That's so common, Dawn. I experienced the same when my first coach asked me. I was like, and she was like, drop into the body. And I was like, what does that mean? I'm in my head and that's the only place to live, right?
Yeah. Well, like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, when, like, all the time people were saying, well, you were saying, no, just do what your body feels like it wants to do. And I'm like, I don't know what that is without somebody telling me what to do. So yeah, it was really bizarre, but that was a pretty scary realization, to think I don't know what I'm feeling. But with the prompts and the questions that you came to me with, helped me to sit with myself, I think, and just be with, even though that was really uncomfortable for me, because obviously the whole thing around boredom comes into that.
Yeah.
Just
You had
sitting
a
with
big
myself.
fear of boredom.
Just sitting with myself, with my feelings, was just like blew my mind. But now I'm quite capable of doing that. I'm still learning to do it more and more, but I'm not fearful of that anymore.
Why do you think that is? What do you think has helped you shift from even the word boredom to like freaking the fuck out and be like, absolutely not going there, to, okay, let's just be with this? Like, has anything helped you get from there to here?
I think I've just taken it in small steps.
Yeah.
Small steps, and just sort of like thinking to myself, why am I bored? Am I bored? And I think a big thing that's come up for me recently was, am I actually bored, or am I just understimulated? Is there too much stimulation in my life that when I don't have that stimulation, sort of like with my phone and Facebook and everything that comes with that, and like we said, being overconsumed with content, podcasts, audiobooks, all of that sort of stuff is all stimulating for your brain. So when you take that step back and you don't have that, you're sort of like, what do I do now? So I have been making conscious efforts to not be colouring in or doing crochet while I'm watching telly, just giving one thing my attention at a time.
I love that you've said that.
Sitting and doing nothing, like literally sitting. And I do have to set a timer. I have to like literally set a timer for 5-10 minutes or whatever, so that I know that I can't do anything until that time is gone, and just to feel what it feels like when I do that, however uncomfortable or relaxing it might be, because it's not always uncomfortable anymore. It's not.
I love that you're doing the work. And like, those of you that don't know, those of you listening and watching, when I say things throughout my podcast, like the work, the inner work, what Dawn's just described, this is, quote, part of the work. Like she shared, setting a timer, because she knows it's uncomfortable usually to sit and do nothing, but to show up anyway and do that anyway, because that's where the growth lies. And now she's like, Dawn, you've just shared, it's not always uncomfortable anymore. It can actually be relaxing. So therefore, you're inviting more relaxation into your life, but you cannot get to that place without being uncomfortable and experiencing and being open and being willing to do the work in order to get there. So celebrating you for all the work you've done and continue to do, because it's huge.
Yeah. And like I said, it doesn't feel now that it's about the food. It feels like I've found for so much more about myself. I found out who I am. I think I've come back to sort of like an authentic person, as opposed to that person who felt a little bit fake, because I was telling people I knew how you live. You know what I mean? I knew that we're not all meant to be the same shape and size. Like I knew it. I knew that if you ate foods that were nutritious and you moved your body in a way, you know, that you enjoyed, didn't have to be excessive, or, you know, quote unquote healthy stuff, I knew that if you did that, you would be at the shape and size that you were supposed to be. And I preached that to people. I preached that to my friends and my family. Yet I wasn't living that myself. I was like telling people that's how you're supposed to live, but I wasn't doing that. And I think that made me feel like a bit of a fake. I think it wasn't who I am. And I think doing this process, I've found out who I am. I've gone back to who I am, and I don't preach to people anymore about what they eat or what they don't eat.
What do you think was stopping you? So because I think this is such a common thing to experience, like it is so much easier to give people really sound advice in any aspect, but then when it comes to ourselves, for some reason we're just like, it doesn't apply to us. Why do you think that was for you before you went through this process?
I don't know really. I don't know how I got to that point where I wasn't following my own advice. I knew that I should be following my own advice, but I was so desperate to be like a healthy, fit person. And I think I think the exercise for me was like the biggest thing, because the validation from the sort of like the praise and the validation from doing challenges and you know, running X amount of miles or walking, hiking up X amount of hills. I think that was a big thing for me. That was like when people were like, oh my God, I can't believe you've done that. I couldn't do that myself. And there was all of that validation around there, when really that should come from within, shouldn't it?
Well, it does now for you. Would you say you validate yourself first?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've done, again, over the last few weeks, I've sort of like done work again on my limiting beliefs and stuff. And that was one of the things that came up for me. So it's like, right, you know what, I don't need to post every time I go for a run on social media so people go, well done. You know what I mean? The only person that needs to be proud of me is me.
I love that so much. How would you, so you mentioned before, and this again is so common, so I want to add value as well as tell your story. When you first heard about intuitive eating, and I would say things like, you know, check in with your body, eat what she wants, and you were like, I don't know what that means. Obviously, in my modules, it goes in depth how to do that, but what would you say enabled you or helped you to get from that place of, what the fuck do you mean, to, oh, okay, I get it now?
I think I stepped away from going, what does my body feel like it wants to eat? Because I didn't understand that. I couldn't feel that. I couldn't like sit there and go, what does my body want to eat? It was very alien to me. So it was more like, what do I feel like I want to eat? Not my body, me as a person. What do I feel like I want to eat? It was that. I'd never heard of intuitive eating before September.
How did you feel when you listened to the first module?
It was like, what? Just eat what I like.
Really? Is this woman crazy?
Yeah, absolutely. Off her head. So yeah, I'd never even heard of intuitive eating before. But I did really try to embrace it and eat what I felt like I wanted to eat, which was really difficult at first. I think the physical allowance was much easier for me than the mental allowance. But yeah, it was, I can't even remember what I was saying now.
Oh, in terms of like how the hell to check in with your body, which you described so beautifully. It was just you as a whole person, mind, body, brain, everything as one.
It was. And then sort of like, I think it got a lot easier, like going, actually, what do I want? The more I ate, I allowed the things like the Revels and the Haribo and all of that sort of stuff. I got to the point where it was like, you know what, I'm not even excited by this anymore. I could eat and eat and eat this, and it's not fulfilling. It's not doing it for me. And it was when I would go into the kitchen and grab an orange or a banana, and I was like, oh, that feels much better.
I love the fact that, and I want you to share this, when you shared in the group about the sticky label on the bag of red share that, because I resonate so much with that.
It's sticky labels on the back of the sweet. I didn't even know it was there.
I mean, listeners
And it
might
was
not
like,
even know what it
why
is.
do I need to use a sticky label on the back of sweets to put some away for another time?
And then you use that for the first time and you were like, oh, that's what it's for, when you don't actually eat the bag.
People do put sweets away. But like my husband does it all the time. I was so envious of my husband because he was that person who could, have a packet of Maltesers, a box of Maltesers, take a few out and put the rest in the fridge for another day. And I was like, how the f do you do that? Like, is that some sort of magic?
Oh, yes.
And now I'm that person. I am the person who can have a few Revels out of the bag and put the rest in the fridge, and they can be there for days. Absolutely.
Wow. What
days.
do you think helped you get to this place? Because I know personally and through coaching, it can be a scary thing to go through in order to get there, but you've got to go through the scary part before you get there. So what would you say the key things were for you that allowed you to be that person who put the Revels back in the fridge?
It was allowing myself to eat the food, and I think it was also allowing myself to enjoy what was going in my mouth.
That's a big one.
And actually taste it, because I don't think I did that. I used to eat so quickly, and out of control, I think, especially with sweets, very quickly and out of control. I wasn't ever tasting what was in there, so there I was never satisfied with what was going in my mouth. So it was just constantly eating sweets and sweets because they were never ever satisfying for me. But then when I slowed down a little bit and started to actually taste what was going in my mouth, I felt like I didn't need all of that. But I also did that I think it was you that gave me that little tip on, just put a few in a bowl, eat them, give yourself the permission to eat the whole packet of Revels or chocolate raisins. Give yourself permission to eat it if you want it, but just sort of like start with a small bowl of it and go back and go back and go back. And that's what I did. And 9 times out of 10, after that first bowl, and I spent 5 minutes eating a small bowl of chocolate raisins instead of a handful going straight in my mouth, and it was like one at a time and actually tasting them. It was like, well, actually that's satisfying me now. I'm tasting it.
Yeah, the magic of allowance and then pleasure.
Yeah, there's things that I used to eat where I go, actually that's not as nice as I remember it being.
It probably tasted nicer at one point because you didn't allow yourself to have it. And so then when you did have it, it was that out of control, in quote, feeling, wasn't it? Of just getting it all in.
Definitely, like orange Revels were my thing. I loved orange Revels. And now I eat orange Revels and they just feel too sweet. They feel too sweet for me now. I still eat them because I do like them, but I don't devour them like I used to because it just feels too sweet for me. And I think that's why I put them back as well, is because I'm getting those tastes. I'm tasting stuff.
I love that. Someone who's listening who is considering, because they have got to be ready, you and I both know that someone's got to not know how, obviously that's where I come in, but they've got to be ready to be like, right, I have no fucking clue how, but I'm done with dieting now. I'm done with feeling shit about myself and I want to start this process. Because dieting can create very quick results and we want everything yesterday. In your honest opinion, how quickly would you say you saw like progress in terms of like feeling better when you started this journey to food freedom?
I saw progress really quickly. With regards to like the physical stuff, the physical allowance and the physical stuff. I think for me, the mental restriction was a big thing. And I think that was all around the sugar. Yeah. It was all around the sugar. But with regards to tapping into myself, that happened quite quickly for me. And like quite quickly it became not about food and about exploring myself as a person and like spirituality and stuff like that. For me, I think.
Love that. It's my favorite thing. And not everyone has to be spiritual, by the way, those that are listening. But when you're naturally pulled into spiritual curiosity. And I'm literally there like, oh, yes, she wants to explore this, because I know what's on the other side of that, the depth of just like, I would describe spirituality for me as the ultimate reassuring, comforting, being held, everything's going to be okay, even when shit hits the fan. Would you say how would you describe like the feeling of spirituality?
Well, I'm not religious. I'm not a religious person. I don't go to church and stuff. I do believe that there is something out there that's bigger than us. That's sort of like, it's helping us on our way, I think, and guiding us. And that's what I believe. But yeah, I think it's just helped me so much, like diving into that law of attraction, and the universe has got my back, and meditations and affirmations and all of that sort of stuff that I've always been a little bit woo woo anyway, like, oh my God, like I love hearing all of that sort of stuff, but I've never really explored it, and I've never really practiced it. But now sort of like meditation is very much part of my morning routine. I very much make myself a priority on a morning now, and meditation's part of that. So yeah, it's a strange thing to explain, isn't it? How it comes to you, and
it's very personalized, definitely.
But it just feels like there's an energy out there that's holding my hand, I suppose.
I love that. And that's why, in your context of your favorite quote, everything happens for a reason, I truly believe that. Like, when you found my podcast, and there's when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And obviously there's loads of amazing teachers out there, and those people that are a right fit for those teachers will find their way to that teacher. And the beautiful thing is about being different and being ourselves is that all we have to do is be ourselves, and the right people will just come to you. And that's what I found in this. Like, you listened to a few podcasts before, it didn't quite resonate. For some reason I did, but people also will have the opposite experience. They might listen to mine and be like, absolutely not, cannot stand listening to her, which is completely fine. And they then find someone else who can help them. So I think in terms of spirituality, I love how you've said, like, it's like someone holding your hand, because I generally think that if you allow yourself to be guided, because it's free will, right? We have a choice, then you are guided to people, places, things that are going to help you to ultimately feel happiness, joy, and love, which is, I believe, to be our birthright.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And can like
you sort of like saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. And I think, especially around sort of like the spirituality stuff, and I think that you could see that I was open to exploring that more, because you pushed me, not pushed me, that's probably the wrong word.
Lovingly pulled you.
You encouraged me. You encouraged me to sort of like to go deeper into my own thinking and my own mind and what have you. And the times when I didn't think I could do it on my own, you were very much there to go, you can do this. All I need to do is ask you the right question, Dawn, and you'll find that answer yourself.
Yes. All the answers are already within you. And again, that used to piss me off. But it's true. And as a coach, like I share with you, my job, if you like, is to ask you the right questions that resonate with you, so then you can get activated to find the answers within you. Of course, I'm here to give you the answer if you need it, but most of the time, because I knew you were open, I held back and made you not do the work. I'm saying work in quotes, but I know that you can find the answer within you. So I held back and kind of push you to do that yourself. You're right.
I mean, there was times when I was so frustrated with you. I was like, just tell me what I need to do, please tell me.
Oh yeah.
Like, no, every time I came to you with, like, you would ask me a question, I would come to you with an answer, and then you would go, but why, Dawn? Why do you do that? And why? What if I have this and what if that? And I'm like, what? Just tell me if I've
Just
got
tell
the
me what I
right
want to hear.
answer.
And I
Tell me if the
absolutely
answer is right
could
or
have.
wrong.
Exactly. Isn't that interesting? I wanted to know if it's right or wrong. And I, of course, could have given you the answers, but then this is from personal experience as well, from having coaches and still having coaches. If you find the answer yourself, it lands in a completely different, deeper, more transformational way because it's come from within. And therefore, you don't need the coach there ultimately, because you just need to know how to ask yourself the right questions, which is what you do now.
Yeah, and I remember having quite a moment one day when I was just out walking, and we'd been talking about limiting beliefs and things like that, and I was just out walking one day and listening to something, and it just hit me. It hit me like a bolt why I had this limiting belief, and I literally just stood in the middle of like on the cycle track crying because I'd had this like realization. I was like, oh my God, it's there. It's like it everything that I need is there. It's all there inside me. It's like, I've said it before, like the quote, the scene from The Wizard of Oz where she wants to go home and she said, you can go home you've been able to get there all the time. You just, you needed to find it out for yourself.
How powerful we all really are, truly.
Yeah.
I love that. Can we talk about, I was looking at the time and I got distracted because I clearly can't tell the time, but we've still got time left. Your body image journey, because a lot of it, I mean, from what you've shared and from what I know about you, most of your motivation came from health in aspects, not so much like what my body looks like. How did you find the relationship with your body change over time from before you started this till now?
I struggled a little bit at first because I was although I didn't feel like I was that bothered about my body image and what I looked like. I clearly was, because I was very afraid of other people judging me. And I had this attitude, whereas I used to, and I still believe it, I always say, if people don't like me, they don't like me. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. If they like me, they like me. If they don't, they don't. But that was more of a personal thing because I knew how I was as a person. I knew that I was a good person. Like inside, I knew I was a good person. That was very quickly in my journey. I was like, why don't I have that same attitude with my actual body? Why am I so afraid of people judging my body? So I did sort of like do the work on the acceptance first, because that was a big thing. It was sort of like, well, I feel like I just need to accept my body for how it is. I can't change it. I've tried, and it's not going to change. I think, the judgment was around people thinking that I was lazy and that I didn't care about myself, as opposed to wanting people to find me attractive, I think.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me. And I think that's why I exercise so much as well, is because it was very much, well, if I am going to be in a bigger body, I still want to be able to say, well, just because I'm in a big body, I can still do that and I can still do that, when that doesn't really matter. It's none of their business what I can do and what my body can't do. So yeah, I worked on sort of like acceptance first. So I did a lot of the mirror work, to accept what my body looked like. And I just tried to embrace it a little bit. I just tried to just be with my body. And to be fair, my husband loved it. It was like he could touch my tummy and I wouldn't recoil just a little bit and stuff like that. So it was about acceptance at first. And I would stand in the mirror and I would I used to do the body blessing every morning without fail. And I did it for longer than 90 days. And I still do it. I still do it sometimes in one degree or another. But I would sort of also I created sort of like my own affirmations and stuff around my body, like where I used to stand in the mirror going, I accept you, how you look today. I accept how you feel today. I accept how you are today. And I think that being in the present moment was a big thing for me, as opposed to forward thinking.
Yeah.
So actually just accepting my body for today, because tomorrow it might be different. I mean, today I feel really bloated today. And I would probably say I'm probably having a little bit of a bad body image day to day. But yesterday, and probably for the last 2 weeks, felt amazing. So I know that, this is just how my body is. It's probably trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
So tomorrow will be a different day. And I used to tell myself that. I didn't always believe that when I looked in the mirror and said those things, but I do now. And it was just sort of like changing that mindset. So and then I quickly sort of like started to appreciate as well my body. That was a big thing as well for me, like learning to appreciate what my body could do. And that came from gratitude, I think. I tried every day. I downloaded an app, and every day I tried to pick a part of my body that I was grateful for, even if it was just like my fingernails or my elbows or something, along with my tummy, because obviously my tummy was my problem area. It's the area that I least like looking at. So, and I still do it. I still sort of like find something to be grateful for about my tummy. And sometimes it's something really simple, like the skin on my tummy is so smooth without having to moisturize it. It's just naturally like that. And other times it's about how it helps me with digestion and all sorts of stuff. And, it's nice and soft for my husband to put his head on and all of that sort of stuff. It was like appreciating what my body does. And now I'm probably in a place where I actually love my body for what it does. I don't necessarily like it when I look in the mirror every day. Some days I do, some days I don't, but I love what it can do for me. I love that it allows me to be outdoors and see things and smell things and hear things and walk to places and live. And yeah, I love my body for what it does for me.
I love that. And how would you say this journey that you've been on and are still on, because there's no destination per se, because as you know, the food and body stuff falls into place and there's more exploration to do and all of that. So how would you say this journey so far, specifically around food and your body, has changed your life in ways that you maybe didn't think possible before you entered this world?
I feel that especially around food, I feel that I'm able to say no now. Before I was the person who liked cake, because I do like cake, I'm not going to lie. I love cake. So I was the person who liked cake. So every time cake was offered, I would eat it, and then I would have a trauma in my head because I was like, oh my God, how am I going to track that? What's that doing for my body? Blah, all sorts of stuff going around in my head. But I took it because people were, she's the person who likes the cake.
And you had that
and
your
there was that
identity
expectation
level
of me to eat the cake every time it was offered to me.
Yeah.
But inside I was having an absolute trauma. But now I feel like I can just say, well, yeah, I do want that bit of cake, or actually I don't feel like it at the minute. I'll give it a miss, thanks very much. And I feel very confident to do that. And I feel very confident if people say to me, but you like cake. And I can go, well, I do like cake, but just don't feel like eating it right at this moment in time. So yeah, I think it's given me that freedom to talk about my food choices. I think to not be embarrassed about my food choices around people as well. I think just eat what I want to eat when I want to eat it,
and own that.
Yeah.
I remember your binge eating score. I don't remember the score right at the beginning, but there's a quiz that you do to get your score
right at the beginning.
It was, so share with us how that progressed. 33.
Yeah, I was quite shocked when I did that quiz to get a score which was so high, because I didn't think that my binge eating was that bad, to be honest with you. I mean, I shared with you before, I didn't go and sort of like get medical help because I didn't think that I was ill enough.
Yeah, that can be so common, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I didn't expect that score to be as high as what it was. and for it to flash up on the screen and go, you've got severe binge eating disorder. I was like, what? Really?
Good job you're here then to support you through that. And what is it
Um,
now when you did it last time?
When I did it last time, it was 1.
Amazing.
Yeah, I did it halfway through my journey, and I think it was about 16 or 17
Yeah.
when I did it part way through my journey, and then I did it again when I finished the modules, and it was 1. I was like, yeah.
Just because you showed up
I
and
agree with that.
you
And
did
I was
the
so
work.
proud of it. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing, Dawn. And you've done the work, you continue to do the work, you're open, you're coachable, you've gone through the modules, all of that, which is why it doesn't surprise me that you are where you are today. So if you could speak to perhaps the past version of you before she decided to sign up, or someone who is on the fence, not being sure if they want to invest in themselves, or not being sure if they're ready to give up dieting, what words of wisdom and encouragement would you give someone, whether it's to sign with me or with somebody else similar to me, whoever they resonate with, to go on this journey to food freedom and body love and leave dieting behind?
I would definitely advise people to try out those taster modules that you've got on the website. Absolutely, because even if you only do those taster modules, it opens up so many things that you probably don't know about yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you do decide to sign up, I would say just be a bit of an open book. Just try and put what you already know to the side a little bit, and be as open as possible, and just be prepared that it's not going to be an easy ride, because it's
Oh
not.
no, we don't lie about that.
Not an easy ride. And I mean, one thing that I always fall back on is that little graph that you shared with me right at the beginning with the wiggly line, and I've had like shitloads of wiggles on my line.
Oh yeah.
But the tools that you've given me and the techniques that you've given me and all of that stuff has sort of like helped me navigate that. Yeah.
Would you say that in terms of the investment that you paid in not just money, but time, energy, attention, was worth the result? And when I say result, it's always I would guess progression is the better word. Would it, in comparison, is it worth what you put in with what you've got out of it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I like, I know it sounds like a really big statement, but it really has transformed my life. It's made me into a person who knows what I want. I think I'm still not sure on some things, but it's made me sit and think about what I want, and what I'm worthy of, what I deserve to have in life. So yeah, I would wholeheartedly say that it is actually transformed my life.
Amazing,
Definitely.
Dawn. And I have
Definitely.
one last question for you, which is a little bit self-centered, but it's more for the ladies listening. If you could describe me as a coach and as a person, just me in general, in 3 words, what would those words be?
As a coach, yeah.
Or as a
person,
like whichever. I did used to ask 2 separately, but then I guess me as a person is like I am my brand, if you like. So whatever resonates with you the most to share with those listeners.
I would probably say warm-hearted, very patient, and caring. You genuinely care about us. Yeah.
I do. And thank you so much for sharing your experience, Dawn. And I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. I'm so proud of you for all the work you've done, all the work you continue to do. And not only that, the amount of support you give to other women in the group is phenomenal. And I'm never going to stop lovingly pushing you to have your own coaching practice and therapy practice to help others, because I think it isn't really natural. It's a gift of yours, and it comes very naturally to just share with such caring and compassion and also with wisdom. So just putting it out there, like internationally, as we're recording right now, I invite you to, I know that you love the work you do and you help people in this kind of area anyway, but there's a lot more that's available for you with the person that I know that you are and what you've been through. So just saying.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, Dawn. Right, thank you so much for your time. And listeners, watchers, I will see you on the next one. Anything you'd last like to say before we say goodbye?
I just want to say thank you to you. You were like, you've changed my life. You really have. And it was like, it was just the universe brought us together.
It so did. It absolutely did. No such thing as coincidences. Thank you, Dawn. I love and adore you, and I love you, listeners, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.